Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. It's my distinct pleasure today to introduce our governor, Governor John Bel Edwards. The governor grew up in Amite, Louisiana as one of 8 children. With 4 Tangipahoa Parish sheriffs in his lineage, he learned the importance of public service at an early age. Governor Edwards graduated in 1988 from the United States Military Academy at West Point. The governor served 8 years as an airborne ranger on active duty with the United States Army and commanded a rifle company in the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He went on to graduate Order of the Coif from Louisiana State University Law Center and set up a civil law practice in his hometown of Amite. He has served in the House of Representatives for 8 years prior to his election as governor in November of 2015. Please join me in welcoming our governor, Governor John Bel Edwards.
Thank you. Thank you very much. James, I appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to be back with you. I believe this is my 4th time to address this particular luncheon, and I want to thank the Monroe Chamber for hosting this event every year and all the things that you do year-round to stimulate the economy, to create opportunity, more prosperity, and so forth. And I also want to tell you I appreciate the kitchen for putting together a fine spread of food today. So thank you very much. I want to share some of the, I think, great progress we've been making as a state and here in Northeast Louisiana and Monroe as well. And I am the first to acknowledge that we still have challenges, and I suspect that we will, perhaps always, but for at least a long time to come. But I am absolutely convinced, doing the comparison and the contrast between the state of Louisiana today and what the situation was in 2015, that we are much better off in so many critical areas that I'm excited. I'm excited about this state. I believe that the future is going to be bright for our state and its citizens, and that we will certainly make sure that our children and our grandchildren have a better Louisiana as a result of our collective efforts. So last week, we were excited to announce that at 4.3%, our unemployment rate continues to be the lowest in 11 years. It is a testament to the continued strength of our economy. And over the past year, the unemployment rate declined in Louisiana more than any other state in the nation. And so we have momentum over the past year. Personal income today in the state of Louisiana is the highest it has ever been, and it is growing faster than the national average. The GDP, so the size of our economy, the largest it has ever been right now as we speak. State debt is declining for the first time since 2008. And I am very happy to tell you that the $2 billion budget deficit that I inherited, the largest in the history of our state, it is behind us. Once and for all, and we're not talking about deficits, we're not talking about fiscal cliffs, and we were able to do this because we worked across party lines to make sure that in a bipartisan fashion, we address the most pressing problems, put ourselves in a better position in terms of stability with respect to the budget, with respect to revenue, and there's nothing easy about that. It's not like Washington, D.C., where you get a credit card with no limit on it. You actually have to develop and deliver a balanced budget every single year. And so the decisions that we have to make around those things are tough. But we were able to get it done, and I am very, very thankful for that, because I know what a difference it has made. And I'll be talking about some of those things here in just a moment that we've been able to do. And many of the new investments, the strategic investments we're making in Louisiana today, we haven't done these things in a decade, but we're doing them now because of that stability, because the economy is performing so much better. And I will tell you, and I've shared this with you before in my previous visits, I still believe that the Medicaid expansion, which I did by executive order on my first day, is the easiest big decision that I will ever make as governor. Today, 455,000 working men and women across the state of Louisiana have health insurance through the Medicaid expansion. Our uninsured rate has been cut to the lowest in the history of our state. It's less than half of what it was the day I became governor. And we've saved over $300 million in general fund by expanding Medicaid, which helped us address that $2 billion budget deficit. And I'm also excited to tell you, especially these mayors sitting in front of me, but really all of you, that while other states that did not expand have seen their rural hospitals closed by the dozens, we have not had a single rural hospital closure in the state of Louisiana. I believe that this year we were able to pass a budget that the people of Louisiana can and should be proud of. It's a budget that for the first time in a decade gives teachers a pay raise that is well deserved and long overdue, but not just teachers, our support workers too. There got to be some educators out here. And whether you're educators or not, we all know that we want our children to be well educated. And it is still true that the number one ingredient for quality education is to have a highly motivated, professional, well-educated teacher in that classroom teaching within his or her area of certification. And so these teacher pay raises are essential if we're going to allow our districts to recruit and retain the best possible teachers for our students. And we also made sure that the pay raise went to support workers as well, because everybody on that campus contributes to the education of those children. We also made sure that for the first time in a very long time, there was an increase in the per pupil allocation to our districts, 70% of which does have to be spent in the classroom to the direct benefit of our children. It's also a budget that for the first time, and I spent some time with Dennis Epps this morning at Delta. Actually, we weren't at Delta, we were at the Richland Parish School Board office, but we were talking about Delta, and I've got Dr. Nick Bruno here. For the first time in a decade, the state of Louisiana is making a net new general fund investment in higher education. And I know that that is important for you. Because what we need to do, if we're going to continue to have the kind of success we've been able to have lately with respect to investment coming to Louisiana, capital investment to create jobs, we have to inspire confidence in those decision makers that if they invest here, either to expand an existing operation or to create a new presence in our state, that they're going to have educated, skilled, trained workers so that they can be successful. And so when you invest in education, all the way from early childhood, which by the way, there's $20 million more for early childhood this year than there was last year as well. All the way from early childhood to K through 12 to higher education. And by higher education, I mean all of our 4 years, our HBCUs. I'm talking about our community colleges and our technical colleges. That's how you inspire confidence, that if they invest their money here, that they are going to be successful. And so I want to thank Dr. Bruno and all the people here who've been working so hard to make sure that we're delivering first quality education at ULM and in our community and technical college system. And so I want to thank you very much, Dr. Bruno, who actually hails from Sweetwater, Louisiana, in Tangipahoa Parish, which is right down the road from where I grew up. And I've happened to know him all my life, and I will tell you, you all at ULM in this community are very blessed to have Nick Bruno as your president. So thank you. And the increases in the investments that I just talked about, a total of 1% increase in state general fund expenditures this year to last, 1%, much less than inflation. We're working extremely hard to be as prudent as we can be, to be as responsible as we can be. And all of the gimmicky budget practices that kind of led to that $2 billion deficit, they're long gone. We have transparency in our budgeting process. There are no one-time dollars that get proposed that get lined up against recurring expenditures. We haven't been raiding our trust funds. In fact, we've been using surplus dollars to replenish trust funds that were raided in the 8 years before I became governor. I'm also excited that you have a medical school here in Monroe that will start accepting applications for students next summer at VCOM. I still don't know why ULM gave up the most pretty part of its campus, but I'm glad that you did, I guess, because that's going to be a beautiful building and a beautiful setting for folks to go to medical school. Since January of 2016, we've attracted 161 new major economic development projects. They are generating more than 36,000 new permanent jobs, retaining over 31,000 existing jobs. The capital investment on these projects, more than $39 billion. Now that's impressive. Since January of 2016, we've attracted economic development projects to Ouachita Parish that are resulting in 2,859 new direct jobs and indirect jobs, retaining 3,668 existing jobs, and the capital investment here exceeds $400 million. Drax biomass continues to thrive in timber-rich northeast Louisiana and across our state, and this has led Drax to move its corporate headquarters from Atlanta to Tower Drive in Monroe, Louisiana. How about that? Graphic Packaging International and DHL, a combined $274 million capital investment here. The project includes 1.27 million square foot folding carton plant and logistics center in Monroe and upgrades to Graphic Packaging's existing paper mill in West Monroe. Meanwhile, the IT sector has become another bright spot for our economy, especially along our I-20 cyber corridor here in North Louisiana. And in case you missed it, and I suspect you did not, we made a very exciting announcement back this spring that CenturyLink will retain their corporate headquarters here in Monroe through 2025 at least. Now that was a big deal for the state of Louisiana. CenturyLink, the largest corporation headquartered in our great state, remaining committed to Monroe through 2025. That agreement continues the relationship between CenturyLink and Louisiana Tech and other universities, which have played a major role in developing the I-20 cyber corridor. We're extremely proud of the success that CenturyLink has had in Louisiana. We look forward to continuing that relationship for many years to come. Just yesterday, we announced a combined $46.5 million new investment by the House of Rayford, and that's going to be split between Bentonville and Lincoln parishes. But there's another 118 new direct jobs, 320 indirect jobs between those two parishes as well. We've also taken many steps, and this is what Sean Wilson was here to talk about yesterday. We've taken many steps to make infrastructure a real priority. And when you are more resource constrained than you want to be, you've got to make sure you get the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to infrastructure. Our state has been recognized as producing the most economic development per dollar spent on infrastructure of any state in the country. Critically important. That's what informs our decision-making process. And certainly, our needs will outweigh our means for some time to come. But we have to use new tools and approaches that have never been used before in Louisiana on projects that our citizens and elected officials have sought for decades. In September of last year, I was here, actually in West Monroe, to break ground on Arkansas Road. That's a $33 million project that had languished for a very long time. This urban project is going to replace 4 traffic signal intersections with roundabouts and widen 3.2 miles from 2 to 5 lanes with a continuous turn lane, and will add sidewalks along that stretch as well. In June of this year, after working extensively with Mayor Mayo and Sean Wilson, our Secretary of the Department of Transportation Development, we announced that Kansas Lane Garrett Road Connector Project, estimated to cost $55 million, is fully funded. And we are committed to moving those projects forward. We believe we're on pace to have construction start in the summer of 2021. Yesterday, Dr. Wilson also discussed a number of other small rural bridges and drainage improvements that are being funded as well. In fact, I can tell you that because of the work, principally of your delegation here, over the next 3 years, outside of what we would normally do in our highway priority program, $90 million will be spent on rural bridges across the state of Louisiana. And a big part of that will be spent in Northeast Louisiana. Because your delegation, like me, we've had plenty of conversations with people in the timber industry, for example, farmers, who tell us that when they have a bridge out, it takes them much longer and it costs a lot more to bring their goods to the market. And a bridge can be out and it may add 30 miles one way to a delivery. Well, guess what? That's 60 miles round trip and you can't make as many deliveries as you need to make. And so your delegation prioritized rural bridges, and that's what they fought for in this session. And I know they're scattered all around the room, and we got several over here, but I want to tell everyone in the delegation from Northeast Louisiana how much I appreciate your work on behalf of the citizens here and the great work you do for the citizens all over the state of Louisiana. In the coming weeks, we anticipate awarding watershed modeling contracts that work with local governments so we can be better prepared the next time we have emergency conditions that create flooding events, and that we can address flooding in a way that doesn't exacerbate it on neighboring parishes. So that we're doing this by a watershed basis, so that we get more bang for the buck. It's a little bit harder to do it that way, but at the end of the day, we will get a lot more done for the dollars that we're able to invest. So we've made a lot of progress over the past few years. And there are many things that you're not going to read about. I guess they're not sexy enough, but the fact of the matter is we have broken all-time records each of the last 3 years with adoptions out of our foster care program. That is incredibly important. Every child in Louisiana deserves a loving, permanent home. And foster children are in the state's custody. At any given time, about 4,500 kids. You know how many churches we have in Louisiana? About 4,500. If we could get every church to wrap their arms around one family who could then adopt a child, we could adopt everybody out of foster care in the state of Louisiana. And I know that it will probably never be that simple, but I think it's interesting to kind of take that into consideration. But we are breaking records every year for the number of adoptions that we have in the foster care program. We were able to do some other really good things this year. Every council on aging, the minimum amount that we're giving the parishes increased from $43,000 to $100,000. To make sure that our elderly people have a good, safe place to go so that they can receive services and so the Meals on Wheels programs can continue. That's really important for them too. And we did some rate restoration so that the services that you all have in this community and across the state can continue to take care of developmentally disabled people and actually get back in the black. And I know Roma and others are here. We were able to get those things done too. So we're in a better place. Yes, we still have challenges, but we now can meet those challenges from a position of strength rather than where we were 4 years ago. And as we move into this next chapter for Louisiana, we're going to do even more to build and support our workforce. In Fast Start, Louisiana has the best workforce training program in the country, 9 years in a row. Now, that's a program administered by the Louisiana Department of Economic Development. I may be a little ahead of myself, but I believe today the announcement is being made that it has been recognized as the best workforce development program in the country for the 10th consecutive year today. Is that right, Brad? Okay. I knew that had been embargoed. I just didn't want to get too far ahead. We're in the process of launching the Veterans Business Initiative, which is going to help support veteran and Gold Star family-owned businesses, as well as help military men and women transition back into the civilian workforce. And the way this is going to work, it's the first program of its type in the country. So if you've got a business and it's at least 51% owned by a veteran, working with the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, the Department of Economic Development is going to certify that business and give it a logo that it can use in its business and to advertise. And we're also going to create a searchable database so that you here in Monroe, let's say you wake up and you need a plumber, or a storm comes through and you need a roofer, or you just want to go out and get a hamburger, and you want to know what are the veteran-owned businesses in your area that you're looking for on that day. You're going to be able to go search that. And we are hoping this drives a few more people to these veteran-owned businesses, because starting a business is hard. And these are people who have served in uniform for us. Many of them have great difficulty transitioning from military life to civilian life. And so we believe that this is going to go a long way to help veteran-owned businesses across the state of Louisiana, and also the Gold Star families. So if they've lost a member in service to the country, even though they're not a veteran themselves, they're going to be able to get certified and take advantage of this tool as well. And I want to thank everybody who worked so hard to make this program a reality. You're going to see this unfold in Louisiana over the next couple of weeks with public service announcements, because we want everybody in the state to know what that logo looks like and identify it with a veteran-owned business, so that our citizens will patronize those businesses. We are also doing more to advance dual enrollment opportunities, and these are especially important in rural areas, and this is why I was over in Richland Parish just a little bit ago. There was a dual enrollment task force meeting, and it is our goal that over the next year we're going to create a framework so that every qualified junior and senior gets 2 college courses in each of those years with credit, so that they will then attend a technical college or a community college or a 4-year university at even greater numbers. Once they get there, they will be able to graduate faster, saving themselves and their families money, but also saving the state money. And we think that this ought to be available to people regardless of where they live and what their ability to pay is. And some districts do it this way and some don't. It just depends. But we want a framework, because what we know is about 50% of public school students today are African American, but only about 20% of the students taking advantage of dual enrollment are African American. So we want this to have equitable access and high quality. And the other thing that we know that it will do for us, we have too many people who get out of high school and they kind of meander through life in the 20s. They get part-time jobs or low-paying jobs and so forth, and they get to about 29 or 30 years old and they show back up at a community or a technical college, but life is much harder by then because they're typically married and they have kids. We believe that this will allow more kids, more young people, to move directly from high school into higher education, start their careers sooner, and allow them to be more successful. So these are just a few of the things that we're working on. There's no shortage of things to do. I remain as excited about our state, as excited about being your governor today as I was 4 years ago when I addressed you the very first time. I can tell you the challenges facing our state are nowhere near as significant as they were 4 years ago. And I know that a lot of that has to do with you all, the work that you do every single day to move Monroe, West Monroe, Northeast Louisiana forward, to move the state of Louisiana forward. And I want to thank you for your many contributions. And as you likely know, I believe in the power of prayer, so I'm going to ask you to join your prayers to mine for our country and for our state, that we will continue to move forward, and that elected officials here will model the behavior to our children in the way that we talk to and about one another a little better than what we see coming out of Washington today. I think that that is incredibly important, and I'm very happy to tell you that in Baton Rouge, regardless of party, we're still able to sit down and talk. And we're still able to figure out where we agree, where we disagree. We build on those areas where we agree, and we move our state forward. I think that is critically important. And my commitment to you is, so long as I'm your governor, that's the approach that I will take. God bless you, and thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.